Hey, what is up, traders? We are back today trading the markets. We are looking to be trading NVIDIA as it has been a quite of a little volatile stock recently. Yesterday had a nice move, and today the move was pretty good, but now towards the downside. Early on the day, we opened and we had a strong downside move, but now we are starting to see a bounce. The intense wick, the volume rose up right here, and we saw an intense lower wick showing that the buyers were picking up the price, and we saw a nice bounce here towards intraday VWAP. And now it's just a matter of time to see if we're going to break above and hopefully see the reversal continuation, or if not, then this could be again towards a short once it breaks below the swing low anchored VWAP, which would give us the ideal entry, and we can average in towards the short side. So the DCA and get like the best average fill price for the trade right here. And yeah, it's pretty, I'd say, a little bit volatile. So we saw this bid. Let's say we try to break above VWAP, but sellers brought the price back down, and it doesn't make sense, right? We're seeing a downward sloping anchored VWAP. If you track it, the slope is declining, and the 50 MA also is declining. So we're starting to see the signs that today might not be a day where there's a lot of buyers or underlying strength within the equity. And yes, we just have to wait. Early in the day, it opened, and we immediately noticed that this would be a good short trade, and we did enter the trade due to the fact that we were seeing, okay, we saw this red candle, but then we started to see lower wicks, right, or higher wicks, a wick here and a wick here. This overall signifies that we were seeing upward moves, but sellers were, bringing the price down lower. They were just bringing it lower, and seeing these two consecutive, it's showing that, yeah, we're not trying to go above. There's just sellers present. We're not going above here, and it makes sense overall. So that's why we shorted the name right here at this area, and our stop loss was placed at around the $142.38 level, which was the most recent and relevant high. Basically, a good place to stop, as the sellers, that's where they were at, that's where they were shorting it. We couldn't get above that level as we see these wicks, and we shorted it. We took half of our position off at the pivot point, and now that we saw this reversal, we exited out right here. So got out of our full position. It wasn't bad. It was a pretty nice trade, but now we're looking to execute. Right now it's like kind of flattish. We're waiting to see if it's gonna reverse now towards the upside, or if we're gonna fail VWAP and see sellers there like we saw here, and fail below the swing low anchored VWAP and have that downside continuation. And what I mean by this is maybe a rejection of the VWAP, seeing a candle like so, like a candle with an intense, if I can move that, looks like it's not allowing me to. Let me see. Like God, I swear, these drawing tools. But yeah, like a lower, like kind of like this, and then we slowly start to curl back down, right? So we start to see this, a rejection, and then we start to fall below this VWAP. So this downwards move now, that would be our ideal entry, and the most ideal and logical place to place our stop would be exactly right here at this recent high. I just showed that the levels didn't hold, and it acted kind of as a intermediate short-term resistance. So that would be the stop, and we could have price targets towards the day low, and towards the other price target right here of around 138.80 cents, around that area. But if we see buyers picking it up and sellers slowly starting to lose control, then what we would like to see in this name would be a decisive break above VWAP, like a candle that breaks above it, have one or two candles close above it, showing that the sellers were incapable of bringing the price back down, and having a nice breakout candle. You know, it breaks above the VWAP, and slowly we'll start seeing the VWAP kind of start curling towards the upside like this, and that's what we want to see. You know, the slope increasing, price action above the VWAP, also above the 50 EMA. So that would be the case. But right now, since we're not seeing any of those situations, we are absolutely just not in a position, just looking at it. And if any of these trigger, like I said, scenario 1 or scenario B, then we would ideally like to enter those positions. Usually when we have a downwards trend and we have a pop, like a pullback, pretty much in a downwards trend, we usually tend to resolve in the original direction of the trend. So if we were downside, we usually tend to keep the momentum towards the downside. But there's some days, or depending on the volume, where we tend to totally reverse, and we reverse the trend. So looks like right now we're starting to see buyers coming in, although the volume isn't too convincing. As we can see, intense selling, right, because the majority of the trend was to the downside, but we aren't seeing sufficient buying volume. We're going up, but the volume is very it's not strong in a way, and that's kind of a little of a warning sign though. But price action is always king, and we like to focus on it, but volume, we should take that into consideration here within the equity that we're trading, basically. The overall NASDAQ is pretty much looking like NVIDIA. We had a sharp wedge downward move. We found some support here at I believe the previous low from yesterday's close was around yesterday around 526. We found support. We kind of undercut it a little bit, but then we found buyers picking it up again, and now looks like we're above the 50, also above, starting to get above here. Look at this nice upwards move. So we'll see. Bitcoin is still kind of pulling back. It's finding a little strong bid right now intraday, but on the daily chart, I feel like we're gonna pull back towards the 50 EMA. We're starting to see the candles going up, but we're not seeing the strength behind the move. We're still below the swing high anchored VWAP, so it's looking like we need a little bit more of support. And I feel like the perfect level that it can pull back to is the 50 EMA, which is confluating with the $100,000 level, which was a pretty hard resistance level that Bitcoin took a while to clear. But I'm fully confident this can now pull back and have that level act as a level of support now that it previously broke it. So let's see. Looking at NVIDIA now, I'm pulling back to the name. Let's see. Yeah, so we are starting to see some type of bid here within the name. Starting to see a little bit of a bid here within the name, and it's like it's just a matter of time before we start moving towards the upside. So yeah, let's see. That's the candle I was saying, right? A decisive break above the VWAP, and it's just, we would need more confirmation, but it is looking like the scenario that we previously said is starting to form. Scenario 1, which would be the reversal now towards the long side at this level. So just kind of measuring the little bit of a slope here. Now the 50 EMA slope is kind of rising. VWAP, it's kind of still flat, I would say, in this scenario here. Just a matter of time, allowing the market to show us where it really wants to go. Usually we see fake outs, and what happens here is that institutions allow the price action to get near VWAP, and they like to average in at a cheaper price and just brings the stock back down. Usually that's why we have like these fake VWAP breaks, because there's people that start selling at these levels because it's cheaper, right? If you're looking to go short, would you prefer to go short here, or would you prefer to go short at the highs, right? That's pretty much how they execute their trades, and they slowly start to average in to their position. So something to keep in mind of. All right, so there's the breakout candle that we like to see, and it closed above VWAP. That's very important to notice, because it's showing that buyers are slowly coming a little bit of aggressive, but we still need some confirmation in order to determine if this is going to be a bullish reversal or not. Looking at some other names, the strong Palantir also had the same. We declined below VWAP and also below the 50 EMA, and it's slowly looking like it found a bid, and we're moving up. But as you guys can see, it's very suspicious due to the fact that we're seeing rising price action, but the volume here is declining. That's kind of like a warning sign, but we shouldn't just factor it 100%, be like, oh, we're gonna reverse. It's just something to take into consideration, and maybe it's showing that the move won't be as intense if we do start to reverse towards the upside. We may find resistance on Palantir. Maybe the move is going to be short-lived. We'll find some resistance at the 50 EMA, so I believe at around 130 and 36 cents we may find some resistance near that level of Palantir. Going back towards NVIDIA, it's developing quite nice. We have to see this dashed line that you guys are seeing right now. This is the pre-market low. I marked it, and this dashed line is a pre-market high. So obviously another way that you could have gone short is at the break of the pre-market low, but usually I tend to see that those type of trades are a little bit of a short-lived, but it is important to keep in mind of those pre-market levels, which are pretty important throughout the day. Let's see, Tesla pulling back quite heavily. This one was really downside. It is finding a bid now, yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know why Tesla's declining so much, or it did decline on the day. Around, like, it's been down, and now it's around 3% to the downside, and it may have to do with the fact that Elon Musk wasn't in total approval of the proposed bill that the president is trying to pass, this government spending here, which could add around $2 trillion, I believe, to the overall U.S. debt, which is kind of extreme, but it may be the reason as to why the stock is declining. I don't see any other reason that it may do that as well. We may find some resistance at that level and just continue with the downside move. I'm not finding too much strength in the overall market right now. Like, we're going up, yes, but the volume isn't there. So should be a reason why we should kind of suspect, right? CoreWeave also had a sharp downside move and is now starting to reverse, starting to find upward momentum here, which is quite nice to see on the name. On NVIDIA, okay, developing. So there's one candle that's holding above the VWAP. It's looking quite well, though we're finding now see a little bit of resistance here at the pre-market low. As you guys know, basic technical analysis tells us when support is broken, right? Generally, like this example right here, when support is broken, we do tend to test it, go back to it, and now it acts as a level of resistance, right? So the reasoning as to why this happens, right, it's important to understand the dynamics of the market, is that most individuals, let's say individuals who went long believing that this would be a level of support, well, by the time it goes down, right, they're losing money, and then we slowly start to move up, right? So those individuals who were going long here, and maybe they have a stop loss, someplace deeper. They're still holding the name, or they don't have a stop loss. It comes back, and what they do is they sell their position to be flat, and what that causes, obviously, now it makes the level act as a level of resistance, because they want to be pretty much out at a flat level, no loss, no gain, just be like, yeah, I'm out of here, I was wrong, and I want to get out of the stock. So that's what happens. And usually same thing when a level breaks resistance and now acts as support. People who try to go short the name now buy back to get out, and that causes double buying usually. So that's a very important market dynamic to understand and comprehend here. But yeah, we're finding a little bit of resistance, although it's still above VWAP, and that's nice to see and important to take note of. Let's see, 805. Looks like it's not bad. Looks like it's pulling back. But yeah, looks like the move, like I said, was pretty heavy towards the downside earlier. It was just sustained, and I guess, kind of the number that fueled the downside move here was the ISM, which came, I believe, lower, and that wasn't pretty much a good sign. The market just, kind of tanked. It was around 7. Yeah, this big heavy downside candle here was what when the number came out, and I think that's when maybe started to see the reversal. People started taking profits. And also very important to notice is, this is obviously going to see a bounce, because if we use Fibonacci retracements, right, the beginning of the move, let's say you enter the name and you see there's a downward move. So what you do is kind of see where the stock can overall go towards the downside in this case. So plot Fibonacci retracements from this towards a high, and there it was. It came exactly at the 2.618 Fibonacci, showing that the downside move was getting pretty overextended, and we were going to find a bid at that level right there. And surprisingly, we found it, pretty aggressively. The buyers came in, and that's what we're seeing, the underlying strength. But these levels are not a gain, right? We broke below the 1.618 retracement. I'm like, okay, we can go even further. And that's exactly what we found, support, and buyers came in. So it's important to acknowledge these parts of the overall market dynamics, because these levels are pretty much kind of hidden support levels or resistance levels, because if you go back, let's say, to a 15-minute candle, right, you could have noted that that was going to be a support level, maybe within the 50 MA, but during that time, where is a level of support, you can kind of graph that on, right? So yeah, just having that kind of being able to look at the trends and analyze them, use different types of instruments to gauge the trend, whether it be EMAs, SMAs, but ideally EMAs within day trading, as they're more sensitive to recent price action. You can also use RSI as well. When it's below 20, it's oversold. When it's above 80, it's overbought, and you kind of tend to look for the reversals. Also MACD, a lot of instruments out there. I think Bollinger Bands to kind of gauge like the deviations, the standard deviation, I believe, of the price. And also VWAP does come with standard deviation bands, but we tend to, in my personal preference, like to not use them, because I like to have my chart a little bit clean, not too messy with all these indicators, right? So yeah, I can plot it, but it's going to be looking a little bit messy. Here, right? So when we are below the lower one, then looks like it shows that we are starting to be overextended as well, and then we get back within the little range here, and it's like, you know, it's like it kind of hugs it. It's like saying it can't go above or be overextended for too long before it retraces towards the mean, which would be in this case the anchored or intraday VWAP here, which is a blue. But taking that off now, let's see. So yeah, looks like there are some buyers here on NVIDIA. Volume is kind of, it's not there fully, but the price action is proving us otherwise. Starting to see some buyers here. Breakout candle. What I would like to see this candle close. I like this new candle that developed here. I would like to see this candle close looking something like this, like, you know, like that. Breaks above this, closes higher than this candle, showing that now the momentum is towards the upside. Right, we are below, above intraday VWAP and above 50 EMA. So as you guys can see, looks like our bullish case that we said, you know, possible reversal towards upside is kind of starting to develop, and you know, but we need to follow our rules. Very important. We don't just want to, you know, enter a name usually, I believe, when the candlestick is still being developed, because you know the battle between the buyers and sellers, or the supply and demand, is still being factored. You know, it's still present. We only like to see the aftermath. You know, seeing, well, who won? Was it the sellers, or was it the buyers who, you know, took control of this certain time frame? Right. In this case, it would be the 5 minute, which is 5 minute candlesticks here. You can also go to a shorter time frame. Right. There's more confluence, and could have been a long here as a, you know, pulled back towards a swing low and could be well found support exactly at that level. But you know, would have been short-lived. Probably would have been 140 around there, maybe $1, a little bit less, 75 cents profit on that move. But we are seeing, you know, maybe pull back and finding some support at that area. You know, so it's important to do a multi-time frame analysis. You know, not just one time frame. We are seeing intense buying, a higher low. So we saw a wick and then a higher low, a higher low. So it looks like the uptrend is kind of forming. Let's see, 30-minute chart as well. You know, we saw the downward move, right? But now we're seeing the bid, you know, pick up. So it's quite nice to see. Let's go back to that trade right here. And yeah, if you guys always want me to analyze or look towards a certain equity, or whether it's crypto or any type of instrument, you guys can always feel free to drop it down in the comments, and I will respond to it. And you know, who knows, I could maybe make a personalized video based on that certain instrument, right? So doing that. It's like we're not seeing that oomph, I guess, like that power move that we wanted to see on this candlestick. As always, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel where we upload videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or 4 p.m. Eastern. I think recently we uploaded, today is going to go live, a video where we were talking a little bit more about how these Trump tariffs are impacting the market and what it may mean for the future. We take a little bit more of a deeper fundamental analysis, analyze a little bit more of the cues, but we go deeper into the reasoning behind, we're seeing this increased, we have seen this increased volatility in the market. So feel free to check that out at 1 p.m. So it's going to be a nice video, be a good video. Yeah, so it looks like this candle didn't propulse like we wanted to, move with that, we wanted to see this candle be like this, but looks like we're not seeing that. We show some weakness. We're still remaining below the pre-market low, showing us that's still acting in a way kind of as a level of resistance. Yeah, when it comes as well to when we saw that intense downside move in the market with the fears of tariffs and all that, kind of scare off that we had in the markets, I firmly believed, many others I think could agree that people got scared, and it's understandable, but analyzing, the tariffs that were being imposed, they weren't economically feasible during the time period that, the president was saying it was going to be implemented, right? So it was obvious that at some point they kind of had to pull back and reduce it. We got to pretty extreme numbers, and, I firmly said, it's not going to last long, and shortly after, the president kind of lowered those rates, and it's been on and off, pausing and implementing them again. But we saw the recovery in the market. So analyzing also economically, that wasn't pretty feasible for a longer term. It would have a lot of impact between the trade between China and the US, and not just that, but overall global trade. It would affect a lot of markets. So but it was quite nice to see the dip recover, because I was starting to think that we were starting to enter a bear market, but thankfully we're starting to recover, and I think we're just 3% or 2% from the highs that we had around 5. Let me double check. Yeah, around 530. Yeah, we're not too far from the highs. Let's see. Let me zoom out. Yeah, we're not that far. If we measure here to here, we're around 2% from those highs. So it's not too bad. It's pretty good. It got bought up quite well, and that's good thing to see on the overall market. As well, core weave looking amazing as well, as always. You can see it's coming back right here. See, and again, we're finding resistance. You guys see that wick, right? Being formed, showing that there's buyers or sellers, bringing the price down. Yeah, not bad. And if we also take a look at the 1 minute chart here of NVIDIA, we are seeing that resistance here at that pre-market low, pre-market support. We're seeing it 2 times already, which is not a coincidence, right? Things happen for a reason, especially in the markets here. I think we need more power, more volume to break above that, to really break above those sellers that are there. We'd have to break quite heavily. Probably would have to retest that and continue higher. But now we're not seeing nothing of that right now so far. It's like being shorted. That candlestick looks pretty, yeah, it's bearish. A name that really surprised me and has been on my watch has been definitely CoreWeave, and it's been a name that overall has been, moving extraordinarily. It's been having, pretty intense moves overall and, experiencing, but now it's kind of, being a little bit consolidative today. It's not seeing that aggressive move, nor it's seeing that momentum pick up at all. And, it's quite different from yesterday. It was up I believe $30. And it's understandable, right? There needs to be that kind of slow down, that digest in our price action, either through price or through time, in order to, overall move higher, right? It needs to take a break. Things can't keep going up for a while. There needs to be a sort of a break from the intense moves that we've been seeing with CoreWeave here in this case. All right. See NVIDIA. All right, looks like I don't know. It's like we're consolidating at this area. We're not either breaking or we're falling. Just being patient. That's what's important. In the markets here, especially right now with the increased volatility that we've been seeing. I haven't checked the VIX. I wonder how it's doing. Yeah, it's declining. Solana just had a nice spike today in the morning, showing that intense downside move that we saw generally in the markets. But on the daily, yeah, it's not too bad. Compared to other days. May 23 did have pretty downside moves. Remember, the VIX is always inversely correlated, so when we see an increase in the VIX, generally stocks tend to sell pretty heavy, and we have downside moves in the VIX. Generally stocks perform pretty well and they start to recuperate, or where they're trending in the upside. Pretty much we're increasing when the VIX is down, and when the VIX is up, we are selling generally here in the markets. Yeah, but it's not looking too bad. We're seeing some resistance still at the pre-market low of NVIDIA, and volume is, like I said, not too great, right? Like I said, we're seeing an increase here of the price action, but we're seeing a kind of decline of the volume, and that is contradicting, and it's kind of like a warning, like I said, still. But we don't know until we either have a decisive break above this level of pre-market low or a break here of the VWAP. And it looks like we are seeing some intense resistance at that level. We're seeing that downward wick, just a battle here between the buyers and the sellers, or basically the forces of supply and demand here in this case. But yeah, core weave is looking strong. Hasn't been declining as much. Tesla, like I said as well, it's like it's finding some resistance above the VWAP, and it's like institutions are slowly starting to sell into this name possibly. And if we do break, we may find, and I believe we will find resistance at the 50 EMA here, which is a level of 339 right there. And yeah, NVIDIA still within this current intermediate range. Seeing some sellers. Let's see how the other Max 7 are performing. Meta as well, actually pretty strong on the day, not bad. It's been seeing a nice move here off the open, pulled back to VWAP, found support, pulled back to VWAP, found support, and it's now kind of forming a lower high. Yeah, Meta's not looking too bad, but one thing that I'm not liking is when we retest a level, in this case VWAP is being retested so many times, it's showing that the buyers aren't being strong enough, right? So they are picking it up, right? We come back, pick it up, buyers are present, we come back, pick it up, buyers are present. But you see with each time that we bounce, so compare this bounce to this bounce, there's been less of the move, right? It's like they're being oppressed by the sellers, and it looks like they are being oppressed here by the sellers. I feel like we may break below VWAP and find support at the 50. We plot swing high anchor VWAP from when the sellers came in. We are definitely below that here. Sellers are still in the name, present. So yeah, like I said, right, like we seen this bounce here, right here. Compare this to this bounce, we're not seeing that movement that will bring it towards the upside. If we compare that to, let's say, NVIDIA yesterday, right? Let's go back. Let's see. If we look at NVIDIA and compare that move yesterday, right, we didn't even come close to testing intraday VWAP, right? It shows how strong the buying momentum was. It shows as well that the sellers, definitely were not in the name, and if they were, they immediately, got stopped out. And I'm guessing, if you did go short the name yesterday, maybe you try to go short here, you place your stop here, you got liquidated, but maybe, you still had chance to, switch positions, go from short towards the long, and a good place of, place to stop would have been around here, this low of 137 yesterday, or even on the maybe slight pullback here, 139. But yeah, the move was so much different. The volume was increasing, heavy volume. You guys can see this in the slope of the VWAP, kind of curled and accelerated towards the upside. We generally want to be long when the slope of the anchored VWAP is increasing over time. And, the sellers, they were here, right here and there, but we, started to see that, slowly starting to pull back. But we found support at the VWAP, some individuals, bought at or below VWAP here, and pretty much they got it at a discount. Right, they got below the average price of the market participants, and that's where we found support here at this range of 140, right? And we closed the day pretty well, and now we opened, and here's where we are right now. See, like I said, we're not seeing that intense move, right? If buyers, realistically analyzing, if buyers were really there, why aren't we breaking above the $141 level, this resistance, which is a pre-market low, right? Because we broke it, and it was supposed to be support, but since we broke it, it's now acting as level of resistance. And I previously stated why it's acting as level of resistance, and that is because individuals who were long, let's say I was long here at 141, I don't place a stop loss, and I'm starting to see maybe we'll find a support, maybe we'll find some support, and I have the nerves to hold, and I see that my position slowly starts to return back to even, and I actually gain maybe a little bit, okay, I'm gonna be understanding that, okay, I was wrong and I want to get out as soon as possible. So that's what happens here. People who were looking to go long here, they see the level approaching, they take profits off, they start to sell, and it starts to act slowly as a level of resistance, impeding these buyers from slowly breaking above this level of, in this case, 141 52 cents, right? So it's important to know, like, why aren't we breaking above with that force, right? In this case here, the buyers came in pretty heavily yesterday, right? We saw that immense force and we broke above it, right? Same thing here, right? Like, we had pullbacks, and buyers immediately bought the pullback. Let's look at the 1 minute chart yesterday on NVIDIA, right? See, this is what we're seeing, right? So buyers came up, we broke above VWAP, and we had some level of resistance, but we broke above it with quite the volume, right? And we're not seeing that right now on NVIDIA, so it's kind of a warning sign. Like I previously said, the volume isn't quite there, right? We're seeing the increase in the price action, but the volume is not rising, it's actually declining. So that is a contradiction, and I believe it's a divergence here in this case. And yeah, pretty much the 50 EMA yesterday was in control of this intermediate short-term trend, but yesterday was an extraordinary move for NVIDIA and traded overall. But you guys can see, right, on the 1 minute chart, we're just consolidating here, right? There's buyers present. Yes, we are holding above VWAP. We test it, but each time we are rejecting from this high, showing that the sellers are still present, and we may not want to go if we do go long, we may not want to go full share size, because we notice here that the move isn't really powerful, or I guess you could say sustained. In this case, if you go to the 5 minute chart, our ideal time frame, we are seeing that resistance, right? And slowly the sellers are starting to control here of NVIDIA. See, we're seeing that dip. We may try to find maybe support at that level, but I think it's going to be a short-term bounce. It's going to be something like this, and then just the decline here of NVIDIA. See, now we're bringing back down. This is exactly what I've been saying. It's like to the penny, right? Exactly, right? It's still too early to say so, but we're seeing that level was a level of resistance, and it's seeming to me, right, there's not enough buyers to break it above, right? Why are we not breaking it with that power, you could say, right? So we are going to initiate a small short position here at the break of the VWAP. We will place our stop loss at that level of resistance that we could not get above, around 143. Small position, slowly start averaging into the position before it declines too much here. So stop loss will be placed there, mode of entry at that level, stop loss placed right there, and we will now be trying to get filled the name. So we start to average in towards the downside, and now we're starting to see that movement. Though not yet. Haven't been filled quite yet. But we are seeing that downside move, like I said. So we're having some trouble with the camera here. So it looks like we are back here with the camera. It's not too bad. But like I said, it's looking like we are counting a little bit here of resistance in a way. So we have no economic news that may affect the market right now. So far, it's just the ISM that came in, I believe. Let's see. Let's check this out. Economic calendar. Check that out. Right here, it looks like the only economic numbers that we had today was that. So we had the 30-year mortgage rate. Previous was 6.98. Okay, decline, not really too important. Let's see, ADP, employment change. Okay, not bad. Fed Bostic spoke, not too important. ISM services PMI came in lower than the forecast and lower than the previous. Right, so that's not too good here. Employment actually went up a little bit, not too bad. But new orders did decline here. It's from the forecast of 52.6 and even from the previous. Right, so that's not too good as well. 17 billion. These are not too important, but this was the most important numbers that we had at 7. And then tomorrow, Thursday, we're gonna have imports, exports, the balance of trade. We are at a negative deficit, obviously, and jobless claims is going to be a really important number here. The expected going to be 243,000. We're also going to be getting non-farm productivity quarter over quarter, and we're going to be getting jobless claims 4-week average, which is important to see. And on Friday, the most important non-farm payrolls, right, and the unemployment rate. I think the unemployment rate is going to drop. We're still seeing a pretty strong labor market, but if we start to see the GDP contractions and for this second quarter, I believe that we will start seeing the unemployment rate rise, maybe to 4.3. But right now, no, I think it's going to actually decline because we're still seeing a strong job market despite of the tariffs so far. say volume may be declining here. Not too important. Right, like buyers are trying to pick the price up, but see, like the volume is now starting to pick up here from the sellers. Right here, you know, we're starting to see some selling. Look at these 3 candles right here, and this candlestick right here. You know, starting to see that volume bar. I mean, starting to see some sellers picking it up. See, the market in general is, yeah, kind of declining, but it's finding a little bit of a bid. Let's see. We always like to look at when we're trading names within the Nasdaq, like NVIDIA, Palantir, all that. We like to look at how the overall triple Q is looking like. You know, how it's performing, to kind of get a gauge of, you know, if the stock that we're trading is in line with the triple Qs, or it's actually underperforming or overperforming it, right? Let's see. Okay, Nasdaq is rising a little bit. Yeah, we're still above the 50 EMA right here. We'll see. And that's the thing with trading, right? You know, it's not always action filled. It's not always, you know, in and out, in and out. Unless you're a range trader, consolidation trader. But usually, most of the time, it's waiting and understanding what the market is doing, and, you know, and when that opportunity comes. So you got to be like a sniper. You got to execute on point, and when the moment or opportunity does come, based obviously off of your strategy that you've back tested and implemented, and that you have confidence in that trade, right? I can't simply tell you, for example, to go short a name or go long a name if fear in self are not feeling confident, due to the fact that, you know, you may see a short-term like pullback and you might start to freak out and enter too early just to see the stock, you know, decline even more, right? So it's obviously always based off your strategy and what you believe, you know, and tested is ideal for you to take action or not. Yes, looks like we are seeing some resistance. See how the 1 minute chart looks as I do a multi-time frame analysis. Yeah, still pretty consolidative. Let's see how the 15-minute chart looks. Yeah, pretty consolidative as well. Maybe starting to curl a little bit, you know. It's too early to say so. And the spread isn't too bad. It's like 1 cent. Honestly, the spread isn't too bad on NVIDIA. But yeah, I remember when this name was, before the split, it was, you know, around $900, $1,000. Around there, the spread was, I think, yeah, it would be pretty high, $1. Sometimes it would get close to $2, but nothing over than that. But yeah, the spread was pretty crazy back then, but now it's a little bit less. You know, there's more volume and liquidity, and the average volume on 30 days, the last 30 days has been 220 million, and right now we've only done around 83 million volume. Not bad, but it's like intermediate. We're not too close to the volume or average volume, and we're not too far away from it. So not bad. See the rest of the Max 7, check the mouse, check the meta. Yeah, see, like I said, guys, we're finding some resistance sellers right here. I'm not surprised that we break it and you know, find some support here at the 50 EMA right here. Wouldn't be too surprised if we do pull back, you know, find some resistance there. I mean support, some support. Google, pretty consolidative, you know, it's like in a range, you know, like so, right? So this would be perfect if you're a range trader, for like, you know, going short at the top and then go long at the bottom, right? They will be treating you guys quite well if you guys trade that name. Microsoft as well, it's been finding some support, you know, above the 50, but yeah, pretty in a range as well. Apple, not bad, but seeing a heavy decline. Looks like there was some news. Maybe Needham said downgraded Apple from a buy to a hold, citing increasing fundamental growth headwinds, rising competitive threats, slower iPhone sales in China, and higher costs due to tariffs. Maybe the news that maybe had it decline like this. Who knows? Amazon, same thing. It's not a lot of strength in the market. Netflix still pretty strong, and this name is pretty strong on the swing trade. IBIT, wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, not bad actually, above VWAP. finding some resistance here at the 50 EMA. It's like it's short-lived. You may it's like it's declining. You may find that and then slowly revert back here towards VWAP. Start seeing that downward move, that curl. These wicks are by no accident, right? Why wouldn't we increase with the volume there? Palantir as well. Like I said, we may find resistance here at if it did go up, find some resistance here at the 50. NVIDIA, see, it's like it's now starting to decline. I don't want to jinx myself. But yeah, so far we are pretty content. We did take advantage of the sell that was present here, short of the name at around 141, exited completely out of the position around here. We thought we were probably going to see a downward move, but we saw some support here at the swing low anchored view up, so we got out around 140 and 50. Not bad. $1 move, $1 gain, not too bad. Hopefully we will see that downward move in NVIDIA, and yeah, more of a downside projection for the continuation, and I think I'll close it with that for today. If you guys enjoyed the stream and enjoyed our videos, please feel free to subscribe to the channel, where we upload videos every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and also to our newsletter, which we give personal insights as well, and also stocks that are in play that we've noted, using some of our algos to detect them. And as well, if you guys enjoyed, please give it a like, and if you guys have any single questions about a certain equity, always feel free to reach out and let me know down in the comments, and we will try to answer it in a video to the best of our ability. So as always,